you turn your mic on, please? Your mic. Sorry.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, good evening. I'll do roll call. Meredith Rain. Here. Vice Chair Gill.
Present.
Chair Grimes. And Member Bokum.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak? I will close the floor. The approval of the minutes from March 3rd, 2026. Are there any questions or comments on the minute?
Yes, I need to, I placed in front of you some revisions. I have some scrivener's errors on page 1. And then on page 8, there are some revisions requested by Vice Chair Gill. And Vice Chair, do you have any further clarifications on those? Revisions?
Yes. Okay, so I did write up a statement, so I made sure I get it right this time.
Can you talk right into your mic so that
Okay.
others can hear us?
Yeah, I did write up a statement to make sure I got this right. So at our last ARB meeting, we spent a pretty good amount of time on the variances that the developer wants for the Turnpike Commerce Park. One of the variances was for fenestration. And our land development code requirement is 30% fenestration for facades facing roadways. The developer was asking to have this reduced to 8% fenestration. One of Chair Grimes' statements was that she supports approval with the condition that the 30% fenestration requirement is met on all end caps facing a major highway, along with incorporating building elements that better reflect the character of our town. I was on the same page regarding this, so when I made my motion to approve the Turnpike Commerce Park, I added the following condition relating to fenestration: that we adhere to the 30% fenestration on the end caps facing State Road 50 and the Florida Turnpike. The town attorney asked me over Zoom, wanting clarification on whether the requirement for 30% fenestration on the end caps facing State Road 50 and the Turnpike should instead be phrased as end caps visible from State Road 50 or the Turnpike. Well, I responded too quickly and I said yes. I should have taken a moment to think about this because I just contradicted what I said in my motion. So in reality, I do not agree to changing the wording to State Road 50 or the Turnpike. I believe that we want the motion we approved to read 30% fenestration on all end caps facing both State Road 50 and the Turnpike, and not one or the other. So I'd like to know if everybody wants to discuss where we go from here and what our options are regarding the minutes from our last ARB meeting.
How does that work? Can you even revise?
Yeah.
So now we pass.
Members, good evening. That's the matter that was just brought up is why I jumped on. Unfortunately, I've been in meetings all day, so I hadn't had a chance to speak with staff beforehand. Vice Chair, let me ask you, is the concern just with the and versus or is it with the visible versus facing, or both?
It's both. It's both. I believe that we'd like it to be throughout the whole building on all the facades. So it's very uniform. So wherever you're looking at it from, because visibility is subjective to where you're looking at it from. So it should be 30% fenestration, I believe, on all end caps facing the turnpike and State Road 50.
Okay.
That's what I intended my motion to be.
All right. So first off, with regard to the and versus or, was there a distinction there that you were discerning? Because if you were concerned that it would somehow only apply to ones visible from both, I certainly in my rephrasing there did not have that intention in that being the case. So is the concern just from either one?
When I read the minutes and went back over it, and when it says or, that means if the developer decides that they only want to put the fenestration on the front, on the facade facing, the end caps facing 50, then they would not have to do it on the end caps facing the turnpike.
Uh,
I mean, wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
that's not how I would understand that. My understanding had been that it was that visible from either of them effectively.
And would take care of that. It would take all the ambiguity out of it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
30%
unfortunately,
fenestration on the end caps facing the turnpike or the end caps facing State Road 50. That could take 4 end caps out of the equation.
yeah. Okay. Let's jump to the other piece real quick. This is and I apologize if there was any confusion. That's precisely why I jumped in, because there had been in that last meeting a lot of discussion about the 2 different potential ways to go, and there have been a lot of discussion from members of the board, as I recall, on each references to facing and then references to visible. And based on my understanding of the discussion of where it had been, I thought that that was the intention, which is why I asked to get clarification. With regard to the and or, I think your intention was very clear that it's meant to encompass, any and all from that prior meeting. But that's why I asked about the visible versus facing, because there had been a lot of discussion to that point, and I'm sorry if my trying to get clarification for the purposes of the record introduced any confusion. That's something we try to do to make sure we don't have confusion. So I'm sorry if that didn't work out in this instance. The, the issue ultimately becomes minutes, and approving of minutes is not a mechanism to change the quasi-judicial decision that was made when the applicant was there and had the opportunity to discuss it and all of this. You can imagine the situation that would occur if we could just fire up minutes every time and make changes after the applicants left the room. So that's the concern I have with regard to any tweak with regard to that. And again, I apologize if my attempt at clarification, introduced any sort of concern there with regard to the visible versus facing. But my recollection was there had been substantial conversation on that exact point, and it had been my understanding from the direction of the conversation that that had been the intention. And so that's why I wanted to make sure something wasn't getting misspoken on the record. So I'm sorry if that didn't accomplish that goal in this instance.
So where does that leave us And what can we do from here?
With regard to your concern that you think it was phrased in a way that someone might uh, understand that the developer gets to choose one or the other. I did not take that from the substance of your motion at all. So, um, so the minutes to provide any clarification on that, they could read that are visible from either State Road 50 or the Florida, or visible from the Florida Turnpike. Just to make it a little bit more clear, it's intended to encompass uh, any end cap that is visible from either. With regard to the matter of visible versus facing, unfortunately, that's exactly why I asked the clarifying question, just to uh, see what it was the intention was, and that's something we do often to try to make sure that folks aren't saying the wrong thing or saying things, in an offhanded way when they meant to have a little bit more detail.
Okay, that's why I also, I just wanted to clarify that I actually should have taken a moment to think about that, because there is part of a sound wall on the turnpike. In the minutes, I think I read that the developer says it covers like 70% of it, but driving by it doesn't look like it's going to cover 70%. Maybe as you're driving north, you may not see as much of it, but when you're driving south, you're going to see a lot of it. And we just feel that the architectural detail, the appearance should look like the front. The rear of it should look like the front.
Hey, Wade.
Yes.
Um, so, so the path forward, would it make sense for John to either put something in writing or come to the planning and zoning board meeting to clarify his comments so that it is correctly on the record for that hearing?
Sure. Yeah, and that was, thank you very much for bringing that up, Elise, because I suppose kind of the saving grace a little bit. You all were not the last stop for this train. So we've got to maintain the integrity of the minutes, to the extent we can. But after reflection and all of this, if it is the case that where you really think in your best mind you wanted to go on this was that, you certainly could, in writing and then in person at the next stop of the train, come and share, hey, look, it said this, but we'd had a lot of bouncing back and forth, and I think where we really meant to go was this. So,
Okay, so did you say at one time tonight that if we did not approve the minutes, that doesn't have any bearing on the next stop in this process? Or what happens if we were to not approve the minutes?
well, I would offer to you, unless the minutes were being delayed for some particular reason, for something to happen, it's incumbent upon the board as a ministerial matter to adopt the minutes.
Okay.
Whether you adopt the minutes with changes, that's up to you. But what I would offer to you is the minutes can't be changed to change the substance of what was said in the meeting. And that,
You're right.
whether that was whether it was what have you or not. But certainly the I did not take the meaning of your motion at all to indicate that the developer had the option to choose, just one of the uh, two streets to pick we're going to put end caps on with visible from that one. Um, I mean, a very clear way to state that intention under condition one would be adhere to the 30% fenestration of the end caps that are visible from State Road 50 and the end caps that are visible from the Florida Turnpike. That makes it very clear that it's an inclusive and not requiring some absurd situation where, well, it has to be visible from both at the same time, which would actually be very narrowing, which I know is not your intention.
Right. All right, well. Does anybody else have any?
I think it makes sense to add the clarification and approve the minutes with the clarification.
Okay. So we could approve the minutes, but I could submit
To-
my statement.
So when you say clarification, do you mean as amended, as I,
As you,
them in front of you, or are there any other amendments? You have what I placed in front of you.
right.
So,
Oh, these are the amendments. We can't amend it anymore, right?
No, because
Okay.
well, Wade, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you all okay with this, me amending the first page with the Scrivener's errors? Is that okay? Go forward with that, so we're okay with that. Okay, let's go on to page 8 then, and Wade, what we have in front of us are amendments that I put in there. So do we go one by one to see if they approve of these changes,
My-
or?
If you don't mind, and again, I apologize for trying to clarify, but let me offer the following consistent with what I just suggested as I think the clarification you could very reasonably adopt tonight to address the concern about it's not a pick or choose one or the other by the developer. Uh, I the Yeah, the motion as it was originally made, I think the edits that you have up um, in one under motion are correct. As originally stated, it was facing State Road 50 and the Florida Turnpike. And uh, and then with the clarification down there, phrased as, let me see, gas fiscal. You know, um, Vice Chair, I would offer to you, I think that restated just with the or is actually perfectly fine. Because I mean, it does not, from a legal reading of any of that language, imply that they get to pick and choose which one. So actually, the more I look at it, I think the language as the clerks put together here uh, uh, on here encompasses what the edits ought to be. And then vice chair, if your concerns being what they are, you can absolutely, share something in writing and then go to the next stage in the process and share those concerns and share what you think they ought to do.
Okay.
So with that, after reviewing all this, my recommendation, consistent with our discussion here, would be to approve the minutes with the amendments as provided to you by the clerk.
Yep, that's what we'll do. I'll just make sure I follow up. That's all. Because I just don't, I mean, I know it doesn't have the word either with the or, so I can see where you say that they couldn't take that liberty.
Yeah, and with another thing to keep in mind as this moves through the process, to the extent there is any, concern that there's an ambiguity there, we're going to make sure when there's final language drilled down in the final instrument of approval of anything on this, we'll make sure it's crystal clear to that point.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. And again, I'm sorry, very sorry for the confusion.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with Kathy's adjustments.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
You all have a good night, and I'll leave you in Chloe's very experienced hands.
Thank you, Wade.
Now is the new business of 320 South Tub Street, non-residential fencing design review. Staff will present this item.
Good evening, members of the Good evening, members of the ARB. I know I'm a new face here, so I'll just start off saying hello, everyone. I'm Taylor Haig. I'm the newest planner for Wade Trim, contracted town planners for the town of Oakland, and I'm honored to be here presenting this case for you tonight. So some of this, for some of you, may be familiar. We are talking about the property at 320 South Tub Street, approximately 1.25 acre property, both commercially zoned and containing a future land use classification of commercial. It is located within our urban corridor design district, and the intent is similar but different. Tonight, we are going to be reviewing the revised request for a commercial fence on this property. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background on why this item's coming back before you. So originally, a month ago, this item did receive approval by the ARB to place a 6-foot commercial fence around the north portion of the property with the intention of screening future fleet vehicles. Subsequently, after that approval was granted, the applicant and property owner now did come back to us and indicate that they wanted to add some decorative columns to the northern portion along that entryway, right adjacent to the commercial fencing as a decorative element, increase security, what have you. So because that expands upon the scope of what was originally brought before you and was not originally reviewed by you as a board, it does have to come back for that expansion of scope to receive another approval before you. Next slide, please. So the rest of it is pretty similar. Like I mentioned, the intention is for that same 6-foot high privacy fence, this time with 6'4" decorative columns around the existing parking area to the north of the property. Like I said, the intention is to screen fleet vehicles associated with the intended use of the administrative services or a restoration company. And as with last time, the fence, when coming through permitting, will need to be set back a sufficient distance from the property line to accommodate required plantings. Here's the site location map at the intersection of Colonial and Tub Street. Slide. And just going through some of the code requirements from the Land Development Code. The first two are the same. Fences visible from the rights of way must be decorative, ARB approved, and accompanied by a 3 foot tall hedge. This is applicable only to commercial fences. The fences and wall heights are limited to 6 feet in the side and rear yards and 4 feet in the front and street side yards, unless otherwise approved by the town planner. The only difference in addition here is that decorative columns, pillars, posts, those can extend up to 8 feet in height. Slide, please. So here's the revised site plan. You can see it's the same orientation as what was originally reviewed and approved. But this time you see these 6 decorative columns kind of framing that northern gated entrance. Next slide. Here's the same survey. Next slide, please. It will be the same fence. The same fencing was proposed and submitted to us for the second go around, but slide. Here we see a little more detail about that northern entryway. There is a drawn rendering. You can see the columns are about 6 feet or 6 feet 4 inches tall, and will frame the northern entryway, and they're about 2 feet by 2 feet in area. And here's a more architectural rendering of what the total fence posts or columns with the fence panels is to look like. So similarly as last time, consistent with section 321 4B6 of the Town's Line Development Code, the 6-foot fencing and decorative columns would screen commercial vehicles from public view and advance the code's intent while improving the appearance of a prominent urban corridor property. Staff has found that the proposed fencing and column materials are consistent with those that are permitted by right within the urban corridor design district and compatible with what is permitted in the surrounding area. And as with last time, this review before you tonight is only for the proposed fencing and columns. Any other elements, improvements to the site are not subject to this review and will be handled through the appropriate review processes. And that being said, staff does find the proposed fencing and columns substantially compliant with the Town of Oakland's Land Development Code, design district requirements, and does recommend approval. We do have representatives from the applicant group present with us tonight, but staff is also available for questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant present and wish to speak? Please state your name and address.
I'm sorry, you need to come to the podium. You need to come to the podium. Otherwise, it doesn't go into.
I hear you. My name's Kenny Welch. I own Performance Fence and Rail, and I will be the fence contractor for 320 South Tub.
Do any members have any questions or comments? I don't.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm fine with
It was
just.
nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm fine with just adding the caps. It's only
Yeah.
4 inches taller and there's only 6 of them. Everything else is staying the same.
Yes.
Fence.
And
We're not asking for anything else.
it's a really good looking product. I mean, the owner, which I'm representing, is, he likes doing things really the right way and appearance and everything. And I feel real good about what he's doing there. So, but yeah, I'm available if anybody needs anything about the fence.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone present who would, is there anyone present who would like to speak on this item? I will close the floor. Do any members have any further comments?
Nope.
Can I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the revised commercial fence for 320 South Tub Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned at 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.